YouTube, this is Sam from Tiger Schooling. In this session of the video, we're actually going to talk about the saliva, its compositions and its secretion. And in the next video, we're going to talk about the control of secretion. But in this video, we're also going to discuss the function of the saliva. So let's get started. So remember, the saliva is a mixture of secretion of three types of salivary glands. It's a mixture of three types of salivary glands, and that is the parotid gland. This is parotid gland, and the second is the submandibular gland. The third one is the sublingual gland. And the parotid gland actually is a serous type, and its secretion is watery, and it constitutes about the 20% of the saliva, overall saliva secreted. When we talk about the submandibular gland, it is a mixed type of, and it secretes the mixed secretion, and it constitutes about the 70% of your saliva. The last one is the sublingual. It is the mixed type, and its secretion is thick and viscous, and it constitutes only about the 5% of its secretion. Now let's talk about the component of, or you can say composition of the saliva, So first we'll be talking about the components of the saliva, which have different compositions. In first case, we have in saliva, what are these things which are found? The first one are the electrolytes, which are in saliva, and those electrolytes are actually higher in potassium and bicarbonate and lower in sodium and chlorine than comparatively to the plasma. The electrolyte is this, and we have the other thing we have is the salivary alpha amylase. And that is secreted by the Ebner's glands. The third component is the lingual lipase, which is secreted by the this lingual lipase secreted by the Ebner's gland. I'm sorry, this is not salivary alpha amylase is not secreted by the Ebner's gland. This is lingual lipase is secreted by this one, what we call the Ebner's gland. The third structure we have is the mucin, and the mucin is actually a glycoprotein. The main another immunoglobulin, which is immunoglobulin A, which is also secreted, which is also an antibody. We have also antibacterials, and in antibacterials, or you can say we have lysozyme and lysosome, which I'm not going to write. We have the lysozyme, and we have lactoferrin, and also we have the proline-rich proteins that are in the composition of the saliva. Now let's talk about the secretion of saliva. When we are talking about the secretion of saliva, we have two types of secretion in saliva. We have the primary secretion, and we have the secondary secretion. And when we're talking about the primary secretion, what we mean by that, all we mean is that it occurs in acini. What does that acini? It's acini are cells which secrete the saliva, and that acini cells secrete saliva. That is its composition is similar to the plasma. So that's why we call composition is similar to the plasma, and which is this. That's why it is called the primary saliva. But as saliva goes through the ducts, as it passes through the ducts, it what happens before it enters into the mouth? It is actually modified. Like a lot of the ions have been reabsorbed or secreted. For example, the secondary saliva, which is actually going to drain into the mouth, has been converted or modified, in which the sodium chloride has been absorbed, or you can say reabsorbed. The sodium chloride from that saliva has been reabsorbed back to the blood, and in exchange of two things, that is the sodium plus bicarbonate. We talked about this in electrolyte, because in the saliva we have high concentration of the potassium and bicarbonate. That is because in the primary saliva we have all of these in normal quantity, as same as the plasma. But as it passes through the ducts, the sodium chloride get reabsorbed, and the potassium level actually is increased, and the bicarbonate level is increased compared to the what we call this the plasma. Now let's talk about the function of the saliva. While talking about the function of the saliva, if I mention it that way, function of the saliva, we have really interesting functions of the saliva in this scenario. For example, if I'm going to mention it down here, I'll be using this color. We have to say, I'll be speaking a lot and writing less. We have to say it facilitates your facilitate your swallowing and speech by keeping your mouth moist. It also acts as a solvent and stimulates your taste buds. Also act as a solvent to stimulate your taste buds, and flow of saliva removes food particles and maintain oral hygiene. It also neutralizes acid in the food and that produced by the bacteria, and so prevent the dental caries. It also functions as the antibacterial action and also help in the digestion of starch to maltose. Excretion of ions like potassium, lead, and mercury also occurs, and they also help in your water balance. So most of the functions I have just spoken out, so you have to remember them, and I haven't wrote them all. And this is it all regarding the basic idea of the saliva. In the next lecture, we'll be talking of the control mechanism or the control of secretion of saliva. Keep visiting Tiger Schooling.